Yes, dear children. So, yeah, let us continue with the class. Where did we do up till in the previous class? Page number 254, right? We started with the first chapter of your pole science, Civics, Democracy and Equality. And we were discussing this, what do you call? History of democracy. Those six reasons, or you can say the six reference that we have, okay, with regard to this history of democracy, out of which we have discussed the first three, right? Three more reference to be discussed about the history, about the emerging of this democracy, how, where, and when, right, across the globe. Not that specifically with regard to our country, we are talking democracy as a whole. So let's see the fourth point. Page number 254. As I read out the text, kindly follow me, all right? An important milestone in the history of democracy was the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215 CE. It is also known as the Great Charter of the Liberties of England. Underline that. Magna Carta in 1200. Underline that, okay? Starting from right from the first word up till Great Charter of the Liberties of England. Okay. We'll explain this. First, let us go through. The Magna Carta was a document that the king was made to sign by a group of nobles. It restricted the privileges of the king and established that the king could only punish people on the basis of the law of the land. Even the king himself was not above the law. The nobles could punish him if he broke the law. All right. So basically, this particular great charter of the liberties of England, okay, or you can also say that the this what do you call Magna Carta, okay, which was signed in the 1215. That's one of the, you can say, a great factor or feature, you can say that, okay, you can say that feature basically about in when we talk about the history of democracy. Why? Because I'll tell you the reason. Now, this particular Magna Carta, or you can say the Great Charter of the Liberties of England, it was a document according to which now it was signed, now which means it was agreed. Now, according to this, what will happen? Now, it was this king, okay? The king was made to sign by whom? By a group of nobles. The nobles, you can say, compelled, okay, as it is written that it was made to sign by the king. So, this nobles compelled the king to sign this particular charter, so that now see, king, what do you mean by king? A kind of boss, right? That whatever I say becomes a rule. Nobody is above me. I am the law. I am the god. King. That's what it basically means. But this particular charter actually limited the power of the king, and that's what democracy is all about, right? Means even everybody will have to follow the particular law, okay? Nobody can make that his or her own law as per his or her own wish. And the same thing happened here. How? As the king was made to sign by this group of nobles, now according to this charter, the privileges, okay, the privileges of the king got limited. Firstly, what are the privileges? The privileges of the king got limited, and now the yes, king has a right to punish. After all, he is a king, but the king can only punish people on the basis of the law of the land, not according to his own wish, which mainly happened in history. If you see that, if you look at the kings, okay, any history, you take any world history, not only specifically to this, any country, any empire, any territory, this king, they used to think themselves that they are the law. Now, this particular charter limited that. Yes, you can punish the people, but on the basis of the law of the land. That too. And another thing, even the king himself was not above the law according to this charter or according to this Magna Carta. Okay? And if the king is found guilty, means wrong in in any way, then as per this charter, the nobles can punish the king. Or if, for example, if the king breaks the law. All right, so this is what is happening, limiting the power of the king. What is this? Democracy, right? One of the, you can say, one of the parts of democracy, you can say that. Correct? Next, number 5. The American War of Independence was the next important step in the history of democracy. 13 British colonies in North America declared war against the British monarchy. In 1776, the colonies adopted a document called the United States Declaration of Independence, which stated that the colonies were no longer part of the British Empire and they were forming a new sovereign state, that is, the United States of America. Underline, sorry, where is this? Underline this from in 1776 until the end. I'll tell you why. Why did I ask you to underline? In 1776, the colonies adopted a document called the United States Declaration of Independence, which stated that the colonies were no longer a part of the British Empire and they were forming a new sovereign state, that's the United States of America. Alright. American War of Independence. Like we have an Indian War of Independence, like the war which is basically fought for the purpose of being independent. Okay. Now, American War of Independence also plays a very important role when we talk about the history of democracy. Why? Because if you see this today the country which is termed as US, United States of America. Okay, if you see how it emerged, or how this country was formed, basically, now I'll not go into detail because if I start telling you the American history, finish it will go to a different track. Let me just come to democracy. So basically, the US which we have today, there was a time when there was nothing called US, I mean United States of America. It was just 13 small colonies. India was also a colony, even America was also a colony once upon a time. 13 small British colonies. Okay. Now when this America, they declared war against the Britishers, against the British monarch, you can say that, king. And it so happened in the year 1776. Now this colonies, the 13 American, okay, or the 13 British colonies, you can say that, in North America, they adopted a document which was termed as United States Declaration of Independence. Okay. Now as per the document, what happened is that the 13 colonies were no longer a part of British Empire. Alright, and from now on, henceforth, they will be forming a new sovereign state, a new sovereign nation, which was termed as the United States of America. So this is how it tells us about, or you can say, the next step of democracy. Okay, how democracy was being, or how democracy was emerging in this world, in the entire globe. You see America, you see this, what is that, Athens, right? What is that? Yeah, point number 1, Athens, right? The ancient city of Greece. Then we saw this Roman Empire. Next comes this, Magna Carta, right? The Great Charter. So all this is what is this thing saying? Basically, democracy is taking its place. It's taking a stand. Point number 6 in the history of democracy. One of the most important events that brought about the downfall of the monarchy and the establishment of democracy was the French Revolution, which took place 1789 to 99 CE. AD also, you can say, not many after Christ. The French society was divided into 3 class or estates. The first estates comprising the priests and religious leaders, and the second estate comprising the nobility ruled over the third estate, which almost entirely comprised of poor peasants. The third estate was made to pay all the taxes while the king and the first and the second estates led a lavish life. Finally, the third estate revolted that led to the fall of monarchy. A national constituent assembly was formed with representatives of all the 3 states. It adopted the Declaration of Rights of Man of the Citizen in 1789, which stated that all men are equal by nature and before the law. Alright. So basically this point is telling us about the French Revolution. Okay. If you understand this point, it will help you in the class 9. There's a chapter called French Revolution. Okay. So the entire chapter, you can say, it's being summarized in just one paragraph. It's very important. Okay. So now this also tells us about democracy. How it tells us about democracy is that, I won't go to this class 9 and all. Let me just tell you that how is this connected with democracy. As it so happened that this the French Revolution started in 1789 and continued up till 1799. Now the whole of France society was divided into 3 groups. One was called this, clergy and all. It is not mentioned out here. You'll get in higher classes. The first group, I'll tell you what is being mentioned here. Okay, the first group, which comprises of the priest, okay, and the religious leader. Second group, which comprises of the nobles, or you can say the nobility. The third group, which comprises of the peasants, the farmers. Now, the first and the second group, they had all kind of privileges, facilities, simple language, okay, extra facilities, special facilities, which the third estate or the third group did not have. Now, this two group, that is the first and the second estate, or this group, you can say that in layman's term, they were, what do you call, enjoying all the different special facilities which the third estate were not getting. Now, as a result, the third estate, and also one more thing, the third estate was made to pay all the taxes, but whereas the first and the second estate were exempted from paying any sort of taxes. So ultimately, what happened? This the first and the second estate, they were living a kind of a lavish life, and as a result, the third estate revolted. The third group, okay, the third estate, they revolted against this, against the monarch, against the king. That what is this happening? Why? The entire burden is only upon our shoulder. Why only we need to pay? They were not against paying. They were against that. Why only us? Only. Why not the others? All right. As a result, revolt started, fight started, and all. And this people, the third estate, they formed a kind of an association, an assembly, which was called the National Constituent Assembly. All right. And they were representative in this National Constituent Assembly. They were representative from all the three states, from all the three group. But however, the third estate, the third group representatives were more. And finally, this National Assembly, they adopted Declaration of Rights of Man and of Citizen in 1789. It happened in 1789. Okay, according to this Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen, it was defined that now henceforth all men are equal by nature, and by nature means by birth, you can say that. Okay, all men are, especially the citizen of that particular country, all men are equal by nature, and also all men will be treated equally by the law. So what is this? All men are equal by nature, all will be treated equally by the law. Democracy, which means indirectly they want democracy. They want, they don't want any kind of monarchical form of government. They want a democratic form of government. That's what the revolution started for. I hope you got this, what you call, the history of democracy. All these 6 points are very important. All right. Next, we have the other forms of government. Okay, let us discuss the other forms of government. One, two. By looking at the history of democracy, we have seen that democracy essentially developed as a response to other forms of government such as monarchy and dictatorship. Monarchy is a rule, underline that. Democracy essentially developed as a response to other forms of government such as monarchy and dictatorship. We'll come back to it. Monarchy is the rule of the king. I already explained to you. It is the earliest form of government. In a monarchy, the king has absolute power, and sometimes he is helped by his council of ministers. History is full of stories of just benevolent kings as well as those who were cruel and unjust. Another form of government, that's dictatorship. In such a system, one person called the dictator assumes all power and rules a country according to his or her own wish. Dictators often tend to become oppressive and unjust. Dictatorship therefore results in an unpopular form of government. A republican form of government is based on the principles of democracy, where the head of the state, you can say the president, is elected by the people. Okay, basically this is telling us about the difference between a monarchical form of government, a dictator form of government, and this what you call a democratic form of government. All right. Now, the first paragraph, before I go to this, the following paragraphs, the first paragraph is very important, as it tells us that how this democracy developed. We saw this now. For example, okay, the 6th point. Let us discuss about the 6th point that we just discussed, this French Revolution and all. Now see, people, this is the third group of France, as because they were not happy with the way the things were managed. The system was prevailing in France, as because it was this king, the way he made the rule, only the third group had to pay taxes and all, whereas the other groups, they were enjoying a lavish life. So as a revolt, or you can say as a dissent, opposition against the monarchical form of government, they demanded that, and they made that all men are equal before law, and this what you call natural right and all. So basically, the first paragraph says that this democracy developed as a response, as a, you can say, a reaction. Like every action has got an opposite and equal reaction, as a reaction to the other forms of government, that is monarchy and dictator. I hope you understood. Earlier it was monarchy only, monarchy and dictator. In fact, monarchy is this what you call the earliest form of government that exist in this world. Right now, is there any monarchy? Yeah, there are some countries which are not a completely monarchy, but constitution. Okay, I'll tell you what is constitutional monarchy in a different class. So yes, there are some, where you will find this kind of thing. But ultimately, gradually, what is happening is this: all those monarchical form of government are being replaced by democratic form of government. Why? Because people are reacting. People are not happy with this. As a response towards that, they want this. Okay. Now monarchy. What next paragraph? As I told you, monarchy means ruled by the king. It's the earliest form of government, and in monarchy, what happens? King is the ultimate supreme. Okay, he has the all power, and yes, at times he is being guided. He is being helped, you can say, by his different ministers, council of ministers. Okay, and if you want to know much about the king, go back to history, any history. You'll get to know. You see the history of our own land. There were so many kings. Yes, some kings were very good, very much. They did good for the welfare of the people, for the welfare of the society, for the well-being of the society. But whereas yes, there were also kings in history, who were very cruel and unjust and all. Likewise, when we talk about dictatorship is not basically monarchy, but it is quite similar to monarchy. The only difference between dictatorship and monarchy is that in dictatorship, it is not that any king, queen, and all, and it is not that the son of a dictator. Now, supposing I am a dictator and I have a son, that means he will be the next ruler. No such rule. But whereas in monarchy, son of a king is always the king. That's all. As simple as that. Okay. And in dictator, one more thing is that yes, he was also considered to be the most supreme, all the powers, everything and all, he or she will hold in his hand. And they were mainly, yes, at times kings and all, they were very good. I would say that some of the kings, if you check back, if you check history, they really worked for the well-being of the people. But when we talk about dictator very often they were not the kind of so-called worried about the people or concerned about about the society or about they were mainly concerned about their own self. Okay, so as a result they were very much oppressive and unjust. Yes, lastly we have this republican form of government which is termed as democracy. Why? Because republican form of government is based on the principles of democracy. Okay, on the what do you call, on the policies of democracy. And what happens in republican form of government is that the head of the state, the head of the country is chosen by the people of that particular state, people of that particular country. So that's called republican form of government, which is also called democracy, democratic form of government. All right. Next, we have the different types of democracy. The different types of democracy we'll discuss in the next class. We'll keep up to this much for the day. So just mark it so that you don't forget, and even let me also do the same. Page 255. So we have discussed up till other forms of government. Next class we will start types of democracy. Please go through the text, and especially those 6 reference point which tells us about the history of democracy. All right. See you in the next class. Study well.